Hello, it's Judith here. In the next series of videos, I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens in a session with me, what sort of things we might be doing together. And today I want to talk about one of the simplest things and yet often one of the hardest things, and that is listening. I was interested to hear over the past week many people talk about the Queen in terms of what a good listener she was, and particularly ex-prime ministers who often had nobody else they could talk to who had an unbiased, objective opinion and was totally concerned about the benefits to the country. And they all pretty much said it was really good to have somebody to talk to. And it came up again today with a client who said, oh, I'm very introvert, I'm very quiet and shy, so mostly I just listen. My friends must think I'm really boring. And when we explored it a bit further, it actually turned out that she was providing an opportunity for people to offload. She was a good listener and, said the right things in support of the person who was talking to her. And that's a huge skill and it's of immense value. Now, obviously, you don't want to get to the point where you're always listening and have nobody to talk to. And I checked with her that she had somebody to offload to as well, which she did. But many times people come along to their first session, and in that first session I will ask them questions so that I can really understand what's going on with them and, more importantly, understand what it is they want to achieve. But often that goes off in all sorts of directions, and it's very common for people to say to me at the end, I've not told that to another human being. I've not told another soul what I've told you here today. And also how valuable it was to have somebody who was objective, neutral, had no axe to grind, who would just listen, ask questions, because obviously it's important for me to understand, but gently, but mainly just listen. And sometimes that first session goes over and all we do is just talk, or they talk and I listen. So, that first session can be very valuable in itself before we've even got down to using tools and techniques, just the simple skill of listening. And it's something we can all deploy. I think we're all too busy communicating in all kinds of ways. I do sometimes get cross about the number of ways that people can contact me, which is wonderful, but also it means you have to look around all over the place online. But how often do we have a real conversation or actually just listen to somebody? And it's always been the case that for many of us, we're too busy thinking about what we're going to say next and not actually really listening. So it is actually focusing totally on the person in front of you, focusing totally on what they're saying. And if something comes into your head that you think might be appropriate to say or a question to ask, make sure you do so at an appropriate point and don't interrupt them, because too often people are in the middle of unburdening themselves and it's very easy to stop them by coming in with your opinions or questions or whatever. And that applies particularly to those of us who do talk. I do it for a living, but I also listen for a living. So just start thinking about listening. It happens a lot with teenagers. They feel not listened to because they are not terribly good at approaching things with perhaps the right attitude or tone of voice, but actually what they want to do is to be heard. We all want to be heard. If we're upset for whatever reason, if we're worried, if whatever's going on, we do want to be heard. We want to be noticed. We want people to really, really be with us. So that's what can happen. Always happens to some extent in my sessions, but sometimes can be all we do in the first session, and maybe even go on into the second session if necessary. But it's something we can all do for each other. Hope that's helped and been of interest. If you'd like half an hour of being listened to, then I offer free half-hour sessions, and the link will appear with this video. So yeah, book a session, come talk to me, and I promise you absolutely that I will listen. Unless you ask a question, in which case, of course, I'll reply. Okay, that's it for today. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, as always, please take care of yourself and of others, and I'll see you soon. Bye.